Okay, it's time to start the City of Torrington Conservation Commission. At City Hall, room 215, 140 Main Street, Torrington, Connecticut. We'll call in announcements. Present is Dan McGinnis, Jeremy Spitz, George Craig, myself, Christine Altman.
And Aaron Stelma just logged on.
Aaron Stelma via Zoom, staff member Nardi Cyrus. We have guests, Steve Thompson, Audrey Mumrush, thank you. Cynthia, tell me last name. Rabinowitz.
Yeah.
And okay, first order of business is minutes for approval.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I second it.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aaron? She here at the last meeting?
I'm here. I'm fiddling around my phone. Sorry.
Do you approve the minutes?
Yes, I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. All right, motion carries. All right, new business, 87 Hillendale Boulevard Restoration Plan Review.
All right, so I guess I'll start. This is Audrey is the owner of Hillendale. So this came up we were doing conservation easement monitoring. We were using kind of aerial photos to determine areas where there was large areas of grading. We identified that, sent a letter. Audrey immediately contacted us to try to correct what was the clearing of, I think it was something like 3,000 square feet of area and kind of reestablishing this lawn. We met, talked about, she was unfamiliar that the easement was there, which is not surprising. It happens. And, tried to work. I told her that we should work out some kind of restoration plan to be approved by the commission. She stated her concerns. I circulated that to the commission as far as proximity to the house. And I kind of used Nearmap to come up with a more spatially representative sketch of what she was proposing there. And I'll let Audrey talk a little bit more too about.
Yeah, so we honestly had no idea. It was not bought the house, wasn't really called out to us at all. Otherwise we probably, maybe we definitely would have done it. So we do one thing that we don't want to obviously put our house or foundation at risk. The line is actually extremely close to the house, kind of, I want to say borderline shockingly close. We started the clearing actually after we had a large dead tree come down like inches from our master bedroom. So then we did do the clearing because again, we weren't aware that it was an easement. So we are proposing that we could put about 6 new trees in, native trees like maple or a couple evergreens, cedar and whatnot. We want to keep it 30 feet away from the house to protect the foundation as well as the actual house once the trees get bigger. And that's kind of when I did research, it said larger trees, you want to kind of not put them right on top of the house, essentially. We also want to space the trees out. We have a lot of dead trees behind our house in that easement right now. I would say, 20 to 30 trees like dead in the back.
Are they ash?
There's a lot of ash.
Some are ash, but there's some black birch
Some birch that are coming
that are
down.
just dead, which
Yeah.
is kind of weird, but.
And it's like, they're almost like clustered. You saw that there's like 3 very tall trees, like on the edge, kind of in that top right corner that are completely dead. And they're quite large. Those ones less concerning because it wouldn't hopefully fall in the house. I think even though they're that big, I don't think they come down in the house. There's another one on the sort of the right side towards the front where that one did look risky. And Nate did see it. It does have, what'd you call it?
It's a large, tall cherry tree, and it's very straight, and it sticks up above the rest of the canopy, and then it has a canker in the middle of it that looks like a decay point, and so it's I think it's reasonably risky, and it's right here. I don't know if it's in the easement or if it's somewhere on the edge here.
First tree that I said fell down, and it was actually October 2019, so it's Halloween day. I remember it was very windy, and it came down right kind of near the house. So we want to be kind of conscious of where we place the trees. We don't want to put a bunch of trees in just to have them die.
Mhm.
Especially like I said, there's a lot of dead trees back there. We actually go
Is
back
it
once in
wet?
a
Like,
while.
why is that, do you think?
I have
Or
no
do you think
idea.
it's like
The birch
changing?
thing is weird. I've never seen, I'm not aware of a birch disease like that, but it did look like it was almost like, you know, they
They were
integrate their root system. So maybe it just has a
These people,
disease or
the
virus or
white birches
something.
are all dying at their pond. Like, I don't get what the.
I don't
the
know
heck's
what it
happening
is, but
to
they're
them.
clearly dying like as a species in this area. And there's
Okay.
there's probably like, I don't know, maybe 6 at the most. Some of them are small
Okay.
probably, but
There's
at
little
least
ones.
3 larger ones that are dead.
When I went back there, you know, to kind of get a feel of what is happening back there. We go back once in a while because our girls do like to play back there, their woods. So we'll go back there once in a while and pull down any loose branches that look like they could fall.
Mhm.
And I would say even in the past couple months, I don't know if it's because it's been windier, there was definitely more down branches, more down trees in that area, and even behind our easement, kind of, I guess, probably on the other properties side. There was just like a lot of and you can see some of them there, just laying on the ground, but yeah, a lot more down trees than
Mhm.
I think I saw even a couple months ago. So we are proposing, like, we want to maintain that area to some extent because there are some crazy viney things.
You're talking about on the edge.
Yeah, so on the
Want
edge, there's some
is this
vine
like,
type of stuff.
Great.
It's bittersweet.
Bittersweet, yeah.
Of course.
So we, again, I don't want to put these in the ground and then have them die. So that's kind of my concern with that is.
Has bittersweet killed any of the trees?
No, it's pretty minimal along
it's
the
like
edge down
small.
here. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because we transplanted a couple, so after we did the easement, we did have some new growth come up, and I
Yeah.
actually moved a couple trees around to kind of put them in different spots in the hope that they would flourish if they weren't all clustered together. And one of my baby trees is, you can see it starting to get kind of wound up with one of those
Okay.
vines. I don't know if that was the harmless one or the harmful one, but one of the vines is trying to
Yeah.
crawl up on it.
Yeah, there's some Virginia creeper in there too, which is nice. It doesn't
Looks pretty.
tear stuff down.
Okay.
So anyway, so she proposed these here. The understory here, there's all kinds of young tree growth coming in around the edge there.
Mhm.
I guess I'll start by saying, just giving you guys the idea of the restrictions in the easement, because again, this is like, you know, the idea of this is basically there's an easement, there was a violation of the easement, a restoration to rectify it, and then, you know, we can provide them with some documentation just to make sure their title doesn't get held up and that, you know, it's acknowledged that they've made it whole. So the restrictions include no erection of building, billboard, fence, structure on the parcel. So that's not an issue.
Yeah.
The filling, excavation, or removal of topsoil, sand, gravel, minerals, or construction of roads to change the topography. So there's probably some minimal grading when they establish the lawn there. Removal, destruction, or cutting of trees, shrubs, or other vegetation, provided, however, that the property owner, with consent of the city or his designee, may enter on to the easement property to remove debris, dead trees, or brush for the purpose of promoting safety or aesthetic quality.
Okay.
Kind of like a broad sort of allowance
She's
for
allowed to take
management.
down the trees and she's allowed to remove.
Even
Okay.
brush would, you know,
Yeah.
open it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No killing of wildlife, application of pesticides, grazing of domestic animals, disturbing or changing of the habitat, or dumping or accumulating of debris. So it's really just has to do with the reforestation of
Yeah.
the site. I don't think, in my opinion, the adjustment of the grade isn't necessary. It probably was really minimal.
Why was that easement ever put in place?
So this was a part of this isn't my map. It's a larger subdivision. And as when you do large subdivisions, there's this conservation set aside. And so part of it was that. What? No, it's this, it's a
We have a big
strip.
chunk of it.
Yeah, it's a-
Unfortunately, like when I look.
it's
at
a
the map,
buffer
we do
strip.
have a big
Can we see it?
piece of it. Yeah, if you zoom
Oh,
out of this.
No, it's
Oh, okay.
I know, I thought. It's, um.
Yeah, like it's-
he's amazing.
It's like,
He's
how is he
amazingly
going through
quick
this
at
so
this.
quickly?
Um, at this part, this is not a. Oh, here it is.
Okay,
So, for those on the screen, I don't want to, or those on the internet, this is just, it's a buffer easement. So it's 50 to 100 feet of buffer around some houses that were probably complaining about the subdivision. That would be my guess.
That would be my guess.
So anyway, it's part of that. This is part of like one of the larger protected areas over here and behind the house here. But that's what this originated from,
That was
and
my
what
research
section are we
spot.
looking at? Can you point to
right?
that right there? Okay.
Right, this area here.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
And you can,
Yeah, yeah, well, it was meant to.
You see, so it was
Yeah, it was
originally
Yeah.
forested, but it was right up to the edge of the house. All right.
How big of a house was it here?
Okay,
Yeah.
so you talked about a foundation protection zone.
Yeah.
In your proposal. What do you see in the foundation protection zone? Is that
So
grass,
it's more, yeah, well,
lawn?
I think like, we don't want to maintain it as much, so we would maybe mow it periodically so
Okay.
that it doesn't
Would you
grow
do
up, but
like
it's
a-
more like we just don't want to have the
Trees.
trees. I don't want the
Yeah.
root system to be invading the
So
foundation.
you would
that's
do
already
like a
there.
native mix there and do like a twice a year mowing, or what do you need for that? Twice a year or once a year, Nate?
Once a year is probably best for that kind of thing. My other, I mean, that is a possible option here. My other thought was maybe doing, so this is an idea for tree spacing.
Yeah.
And it's on 30 feet. So like I'm kind of envisioning oaks or maples in the back here because they can get big and kind of sprawl. And then maybe some smaller trees like dogwood
Mm.
or, I don't know, so just stuff that doesn't grow as big, maybe juniper, like red cedar, something, I don't know, something that's small that you were interested in maybe an evergreen. And then maybe in between and maybe here, some shrub plantings. So like, in my opinion, we could leave it as long, you could ask that they restore it,
Technically,
but it could also, if the trees are allowed to grow up, eventually the grass will get shaded out anyway,
Yeah.
and it'll just reestablish. And so, I think in the meantime, mowing it as a lawn might actually be easier for the tree health as they grow, because it'll allow them to more easily maintain the trees until they get big enough.
Mhm.
I mean, we could have a plan that, sets out a timeline and just says like, 10 years, do this, or 5 years, and then come back,
I'm fine
reassess.
with either. I thought maybe like some native shrubs, but if it helps the trees to establish, then I'm fine with mowing as well. It's just as long as as long as there's a rationalization for it, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't, like I said, I don't want to plant them. Mostly
Yeah.
'cause there's so much
Yeah.
death back there, and even like some of the decorative trees, like you can see next to our driveway, there's, what
Oh,
was
yeah.
that one, an ash or something?
This one, yeah, this
Yeah.
is an ash that's dead.
Completely dead, and the same one was in the front.
Here,
We had the same tree in the front that we took down
Mhm.
last year. I was saying today, I was like, we kept thinking it was come back, because it'd have like a couple leaves. So
Yeah.
we're like, maybe it's coming back, and then it clearly was not. And we had thought the same thing with that side tree, is that it was gonna come back. It did not. It's definitely.
How old is it, do you know? Was
I think
it,
it was planted when the house was put in, so 20 years.
okay.
So I don't think.
But you
it's-
can see all the galleries in it because all the
Yeah,
bark
the
is
bark
sliced
is
off.
crumbling
How
off.
long, how long did it last? I'm just curious, because I have an ash tree.
Yeah, I
that
don't-
Definitely
'cause I think
infested,
that
but
it
somehow it's hanging
was,
on.
you
for a
know,
while.
It didn't look good when we moved in.
Mm.
Yeah, I would say, so we moved in my daughter's 6 years ago.
Okay.
And I don't think it looked great then, but we also bought the house in the winter, so I don't know,
Uh-huh,
everything
interesting.
looked dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That
So we
nothing
didn't
to do
know.
with the,
Yeah,
the thing,
so.
I just
but
am
then I would
curious.
say, Yeah, and it's funny because it only seems to be on our property, like other people have like the same tree nearby
really?
across the street and stuff, and theirs looks
Huh.
fine. So I don't know what
Interesting.
happened here. Or whether it's just that, bug or whatever it was that got to
Okay.
that tree, hit those two, but didn't cross the road.
All my questions are answered. Does anybody else have any questions?
I think the plan looks fine.
And were you thinking, I mean, as far as like shrubs, we'd probably want to show them on the plan there, but I mean,
But
They don't even
I
have to
feel
do
like-
it.
just let it go.
Yeah, just let, yeah.
I feel like
cool.
If the
So if
trees
we
are
were to
planted,
mow it, period, like
Yeah,
monthly or something, or just
let the trees
maintain it?
grow,
so that-
yeah.
let the
Maintain-
trees
Yeah,
grow.
just that way you don't have any
Yeah.
weed, invasives.
Yeah, 'cause I know
coming in,
that, yeah, the stuff on the edge can be very aggressive, but.
And I'm fine with also giving permission for any removal of bittersweet that you need to do.
And we can work that in as far as maybe you know, they can, as of right, remove dead trees and clear out
Yeah.
brush and stuff
But you
underneath,
can't
so you don't have to come to
necessarily
permission.
remove Invasive, so.
Yeah.
I'd give her permission to remove
So
bittersweet.
then, yeah,
The way that this is written, anytime that there's like a major removal, so if there's something that's like questionable, you just have to come here and it would have to be approved, but I think as long as you could provide a compelling argument why it was
Yeah.
a danger or whatever, that would be pretty easy
Yeah.
for approval in that case.
Okay.
So we're talking about these trees. Do you want me to
These trees.
just work with them on far as a species
Yeah.
list?
Yeah.
I did print this out. This is from the state as far as native plants. Oh, you've been looking at that? Okay.
I have a background in libraryship, so.
Oh, so you know how to search stuff.
So this is what I've been looking at, and I was highlighting, I have a small list of trees that I
Okay.
like best.
But we do have actually folks on the call here, but that I put Northwest Conservation District's annual plant sale. So you can probably
Okay.
get those cheaper and we'll just do it in the spring. That's when they do the sale. And I'll forward that.
Yes.
Despite the fact that it feels like
Yeah,
spring.
they do have it in, usually around Earth Day.
Yeah, it's usually the Earth Day weekend.
Okay,
That's at the Goshen
Yep.
Fairgrounds.
So it's Goshen
The Goshen
Fairgrounds, Friday to Sunday.
And they're affordable and they're smaller. And I mean,
Yeah,
personally,
that's
if they're smaller, they have a better chance of survival if you can kind of baby them from a seedling. So
They
What
they
does
get,
that to say?
they do get big.
Okay.
so start small, like don't try to get something that's.
We're not, I don't think the commission is interested in making you buy really expensive full-size trees. I think
Grown.
the
Yeah.
smaller ones grow just fine and
Okay.
they'll grow quick enough. But maybe if you want to go through and come up with a list and I can take a look at it and we'll just work it out together.
that's fine.
Good, so, yeah, periodic mowing, maintain it. So no need for the shrubbery?
No.
Okay.
And then my other thought is just, so like, you'll end up being responsible for the trees if the commission doesn't want to impose other factors. So
Yeah.
like, a tree dies, it would have to be replaced. We talked a little bit about tree protection. So
Yeah,
either cages, they sell those little tree tubes that, they're like, kind of plastic sort of things you can
Yeah.
install. They don't look as nice as thing as a cage does, but just to protect from deer, because they're gonna hedge pretty much anything. We can try to look for deer resistant stuff and
Okay.
maybe
Yeah,
that'll be a better.
You know they're there,
Sure.
nibbling on everything.
I have excess chicken wire. I'd like to get rid of it. Okay,
That's good.
do we need a motion or anything?
So yeah, it would be nice to have a motion to
Accept the
approve,
proposal or
accept,
approve it, or-
approve the proposal
Okay.
conditional on, I mean, maybe conditional on assistant city planner approval or something like that. That gives me a little bit of flexibility to work with around the details.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second? All right, we have a motion and second. All in favor? Aaron? Okay. Motion approved.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna duck out. I have
Yeah.
2 sick children.
Ooh, sorry about that.
Yeah. Thank you, yeah, one of those days they both. Thank
So I
you.
don't see Steve here. Do we want to, he'd be news business, wouldn't he? Or is he part of the,
I didn't add him on here, so,
do we need to get a motion to add him?
yeah, we would have to make that motion.
Okay. We have a motion to add Steve.
Good motion.
And, oh, I'm sorry, Cynthia, so I know, so we have Cynthia,
Oh, so shall we?
they
start
came
with-
on so maybe, I don't know who has more limited time. Sorry, this is
Okay,
kind of a full
let's find
agenda.
out.
And Cynthia raised her hand very patiently.
Okay,
Hey, Cynthia.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you everyone for having us. Actually, I raised my hand. I just wanted to clarify that it appears that Earth Day weekend in 2025 coincides with Easter and the beginning of Passover. So I think we're going to be a week later. That was the discussion. I don't think we've finally
okay.
decided in-house, but I just wanted, if everybody was going to put that on their calendar, just maybe wait for confirmation.
That's good information for us for our Earth Day cleanup as well.
Oh, okay.
We'll have to
Thank
read
you.
that.
All right, and I'll communicate that to her. I just
Yep.
want to make sure she doesn't overspend on trees.
Okay. let's see.
Thanks, Nat.
Yeah, can we have a motion to put Steve on the agenda?
Motion to put Steve on the agenda. I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. And he'd be in new business, correct? Okay. So Steve is here to talk to us about what he's doing with the solar projects and grazing.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Stephen Thompson. Tonight I'm here as a local farmer. I live in Torrington. I'm a sheep farmer, a shepherd. And we also grow vegetables and we donate to the Friendly Hands Food Bank, Torrington Soup Kitchen, and Fish Northwest CT. And I'm involved in an interesting kind of cutting edge version of farming called agrivoltaics. That's just a fancy word for dual use agriculture. So on these solar sites, instead of just having energy production, all across the world, they're doing sheep solar grazing, it's called. So we're grazing sheep under the panels and bring it into dual use production, which is energy and food production for consumption. So we raise Katahdin hairbreed meat sheep. And right now we have 55 of them on the solar site next to Ruette Farm on East Pearl Road. And we have a good relationship with Next Era Energy, who owns the site. And so instead of commercial mowing, they hire out local farmers with sheep to maintain the vegetation, keep it off the panels, and just take care of the site. So that's what we're doing for Next Era Energy. There's probably 5 or 6 other sites we're taking on this next year, all throughout Litchfield County and New Haven County, a little bit Harper County too, because they're kind of spread out.
So you truck them there and then,
Yep, so the way it works is we keep the sheep on site from May to the end of October. And they're basically all of our lambs or ram lambs who are pasture raised, grass fed all year. And we can implement a style of grazing called managed grazing, which is a climate smart activity recognized by the NRCS and the USDA. And so what you do is you manage how much space they're allowed to have at a time. And then because they have a natural parasite cycle, you want to get them off of that certain piece of land and have it rest for 40 days. So essentially you section off the inside of the solar site and you're progressively giving them more space while taking it away. And then by the time they get back to the start, 40 days later, it's already regrown for them to go through it again. And so instead of commercial mowing where you're just cutting.
yeah, perfect.
And so I'm on a solar site almost every day to check on the sheep. It's like a wildlife sanctuary in there. There's birds' nests everywhere and all kinds of everything in there living happily. And the sheep are eating the grass.
Matthew,
So-
how do you go to all of the ones that you have all over Litchfield and New Haven County?
I'm only on one of them now,
Okay,
but I'm farming full time.
okay.
And
So
so,
will you hire other people to oversee the other sites?
I'm gonna have help from 1 or 2 other people.
Okay,
And then some of the other stuff subcontracted out, but I can do most of it.
okay,
Because when I'm going there, I'm mostly just delivering water, which gets stored in big IBC tote tanks. And then, yeah, just making sure the sheep are healthy and alive. And then, so I check on them. They have minerals and baking soda available all the time. They've got plenty of shelter from the panels. And I'm just making sure no one's stuck in the fence or the fence is electric charge, so coyotes can't get them or anything.
and
And
then
so,
you're
yeah.
moving the area.
Yeah,
As
based on how much they eat, I have a lead line. So I'll move the lead line and give them access and cut off their previous access.
Okay.
But, the reason I'm here really is because there's all these other solar sites on the docket for the Connecticut Siting Council. So once it's above a certain size, the towns really don't get a say, unfortunately. The Department of Agriculture and the Department of Energy have a say, and there's some selectmen have some of it a say, but really it's up to the vote of the siting council whether or not they approve these sites. And there's, I think, 2 more that Torrington will see. One is on Lover's Lane, which has kind of already been discussed. That site in particular is mostly forest, which would be made into land. And so the big issue people have with solar in the state of Connecticut is the fact that this farmland doesn't produce a lot of money as farmland. So all the farmers are aging out of Connecticut, unfortunately. And what's happening is the farmland's being consolidated and sold to housing development or solar development.
Mhm.
And so if it goes housing development, it loses agricultural
And you can
forever.
never get it back.
If it goes solar development in these contracts, they're required to restore it back to farmland after like 30 or 40 years, depending on the contract. And while if it's on prime farmland soils or state important farmland soils, then the state Department of Agriculture wants like agriculture to happen on the land.
Can it can be made mandatory that if they build that solar farm, that it be grazed?
It can be suggested, but
Okay.
essentially nothing is made mandatory because it's a vote from the siting council. However,
It's cost effective for them, though,
Siting
right?
council can make it.
Can they condition it? Can they condition approval? on
Siting
it?
council can probably.
they can, but it's based on the Farm Agriculture Commissioner, Commissioner Holbert, if he recommends it is or not. And what they've done so far is recommended that any prime farmland soils that are used are restored to some degree in an agricultural capacity. But the other problem is there's really no sheep farmers who have enough sheep to do this or who know about this or are capable of doing this. So we're kind of in a niche group. There's only one other farmer in Connecticut who's doing this in the east side of the state. And there's myself. So this is something that the solar site wants because it is a more, believe it or not, they actually are into renewable energy and they're into like climate smart things. And they realize this is better for the environment than paying commercial mowing. It also saves them a little bit of money. It also reduces risk to the panels. There's no rocks being thrown around, anything like that. And it's a good public
Right. it's
benefit
PR,
to them.
yeah.
It's good PR because they have food being produced.
And you're not losing that agricultural land. Like,
No,
I think that's.
And in the
gets
case in
people's
Lover's
thoughts.
Lane,
Yeah.
you're gaining agricultural land
Right.
because it's just forest now.
And what came up in Lover's Lane, that proposal was that there was a turtle habitat there.
Yeah.
And obviously, like they had developed this really complicated mowing regime that they were going to implement that was never going to get followed. Like it was like, don't mow now and then mow this time. They're just going to get someone in when they need to and no one's going to monitor it. And so this is, I mean, clearly the sheep are not going to damage the turtles. So,
Right.
So it'll be natural feed for your sheep. which would be
Yeah.
good. Now, are they gonna keep a certain amount of topsoil?
So when they make these solar sites, depending on what they're, the way I understood it is that they clear off the topsoil and then they do their grading and then they replace the topsoil. And then they plant their, which we hope to be a special forage mix for the sheep, which is a good pasture blend. But they should be using this topsoil that is pre-existing. And then over time, what happens and why managed grazing is recognized by the NRCS as like a good climate smart practice is because the sheep are putting nitrogen back into the soil. They're aerating it by stepping on it. They're putting nitrogen in it. And it's just how God made the pasture to be better and better every year. And so they actually improve the soil health by doing this practice. So at the end of the project, you have a better soil health than you did previously.
So let's just say per acre, how many sheep can you actually,
It's, if you have established pasture, it's about 3 sheep per acre.
okay,
Before that, it can be a little bit less. I have like 6 sheep per acre on this site because it's like, it's so well established.
And this is,
right.
this site is East Pearl Road. So this is a Ruette farm here and this is Torringford Street.
Zoom in here, we'll be able to see 'em.
Oh yeah, this is from 2024.
How nice would it
Where,
be to-
where would they be? Is there oh, that's
Yeah, you
them.
can see them.
Yeah.
They look like,
Wow.
they look like little mites.
Okay, so you see, I have an inner fence inside that fence.
Yeah.
That is my electric fence.
Hmm.
And that's grounded out to the proper grounding and it's charged by a solar fence charger. And so they selectively just choose which grass they want to eat within that area. And then underneath one of these panels towards the center road, maybe you zoom up. If you go,
Toward the center road.
yeah, right there.
This, yeah.
Yeah. There is a water tank underneath one of those panels with some,
Is Cynthia a soil scientist?
Yeah,
Cynthia,
she
can I ask you a question?
Yes, sorry, I had my mic off.
That's okay. So you've been listening to this. I am curious as to, when there's cutting and filling and of the subsoil layer and then topsoil is put back on, how long does it take for the integrity of the soil system to come back?
That is a very good question. I don't have any specific research information about that,
Uh-huh.
but off the top of my head, I would say as long as the topsoil is put back at the same depth that it was originally,
Mhm.
and also if the subsoil was not compacted too much, it probably would take, a couple of growing seasons,
Okay.
especially depending on what kind of forage is being grown and how deep and extensive the root system is. Yeah, one thing to remember is that a lot of the soils around the Torrington area and the Litchfield Hills in general have a hard pan layer that's at about 20 inches. So if the topsoil is removed and the subsoil is then compacted over the hard pan, it will take longer for the soil to come back. But it is certainly possible.
Okay. It's interesting to me because one of the things over the years that I've been doing this, that we've noticed is that when there's large cuts and fills on sloped sites, the water flow, the groundwater flow is never the same again.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay.
So how do you stop erosion then from that happening with bringing in topsoil on that?
It's not necessarily about bringing it, it's the cuts to the subsoil. Like there is an established flow that happens underground. And once you have these cuts, the fills, I don't know if how much they impact it, but the cuts create seeps. And those seeps are very difficult to change. You just don't get groundwater flow in the same way again. It's interrupted.
Well, and they're redesigning the site for stormwater and stuff too. So
Right.
they're grading it out different as well. So, but yeah, so hopefully you'd be in there. But yeah, okay, I see the gaps now. So the black spot is the gap. That's
Yeah.
that's where
Yeah,
it's
that's a shadow.
So
That's
the
shadow.
gaps on the Thornton Bruette site, I think are 15 feet apart. And I
okay.
think this one is gonna be 8.67 feet
Okay.
apart. I've done some research on the sites.
Yeah,
But-
looks like it.
Yeah, I'm here to basically, let you guys know that I'm here for any questions. I'm kind of the state expert in agrivoltaics right now, the only one doing it. But I've been working with some different people and yeah, the State Farm of Agriculture is all behind it. They all know that I'm doing it. DOAG is really supportive of it. And the solar partners I'm working with have just been awesome.
It's fantastic to
Basically,
hear.
I met with him for 4 hours the other week. And he basically said, whatever site I want and whatever I want done to the site, give me a wish list. He even asked if I wanted to keep them on there over the winter. And I was like, well, hold on, like, you know.
Well, I saw this in Spain in 2017 and I thought it was cool then. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's
It's
great.
a win-win situation, I
Yeah.
think.
It
I think
is,
it's great.
especially for the farmer, because I am being paid to maintain.
Yeah.
Right,
Whereas if I was a regular farmer and I didn't have land, I'd have to lease land
right.
to
Right.
raise.
Yeah,
I'm
this
not
is
making any-
fantastic,
yeah.
really.
Yeah,
for
we want to keep
for farm
farming,
health.
so I mean,
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Would you be able to do it on the landfill property?
There's two issues. So first off, my initial cost to put equipment on the site, it's got to really be at least 10 acres.
Okay.
Otherwise, it takes 2 seasons to pay off my initial equipment cost.
Mm.
I'm willing to, but I would need to do soil tests to make sure there's nothing leaching.
Right.
I don't think that there is, and I think there's some other sites that's doing this, but I'm also raising them for meat consumption. So maybe I would do a fiber flock or something like that there.
Okay.
Oh, wow, huh?
For me.
And part it all and. Yeah, the sheep that I raise are hair sheep, so they shed like a dog. They're not wool sheep that you shear. So.
But if you have
So you
leaching
comb it out then?
toxins, you can't be
Don't-
creating a
So-
food
yeah,
product. Yeah,
I would just be
Yeah.
careful of the toxins.
Yeah.
I don't know what's
Yeah.
buried in there.
right. Is it capped
Wow.
with concrete? What's it?
Well, I think it's just a soil cap. I don't,
Oh.
or maybe some kind of barrier
Yeah.
layer, but I don't know what that barrier is. Is it
I
like
don't
some
know.
kind of
I think
synthetic
it's fine. I
like
think
cover?
it's
There's another
impervious.
one in Barkhamsted as
It's
well.
impervious, that should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember it as a kid
Eh.
out there. It was,
Going to the landfill?
oh, yeah. It was not a pleasant place, I can tell you that.
But depending on who does it, I might offer, if I have the equipment already, basically the maintenance, so like the mowing
You
maintenance.
could mow it, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Torrington looks like it's shaping up to be a solar capital.
that would be cool. Do we have any more questions for Steve?
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you so much
I
for
think it's a
coming
great,
in
I think
and
it's great.
educating us.
Please.
And
Ag
just,
work.
I already told
Ag
Steve this, but
work.
that was something that we suggested for Lover's Lane.
Yeah.
Instead of the mowing plan,
Yeah.
that they, do sheep.
And
You're
that,
already in communication with
they
them.
had a public comment period for that, so I did write to the siting council.
We did too.
It was a little bit in opposition to what the mayor had written.
Mhm.
But because I don't think she knew about the solar grazing.
Mhm.
It's actually bringing land into agricultural production. It's helping support our local agricultural economy. There are benefits to it. So if you guys vote in the future, know I'm here and I'll farm it. So.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
We don't usually get too much of a say, but we do have that one option of putting in a comment, which in the past, we've looked at comments from Department of Agriculture and DEEP, and when it's been redundant to what we would say, we've been like, well, it's been said and we haven't done it, but I think that as a rule of thumb, it's just very important to actually get on the record with your thoughts, even if it is redundant, just
Yeah.
mitigate the problems later.
Represent the people.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Good
thank
job.
you.
Interesting.
Okay, so we are on to old business.
And we can go right to
You want to go to
probably,
Bannon Street?
yeah.
All right, so
Thank you.
Bannon Street Food
Food for
Forest
thought.
debrief and future planning.
Oh, okay.
Have a good one,
See
Steve.
ya.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So I guess I see Cynthia's on here. I have the map still shown. I guess I'll stop sharing for now. But I don't know. I guess I'll be the bearer of news, and I mean everyone knows at this point, but I'll kind of walk through what happened, if that makes sense, and then we can talk about what we're gonna do in the future. And so I'll go over what happened. We'll talk about the event, which went well, I think. And then we'll talk about what we're going to do in the future and maybe what some of our possibilities are. And I think that's where the Northwest Conservation District, we can hopefully continue to work with them because I think we had really good momentum and the project was looking great. So as a recap, what happened was at the last meeting, we had got the mailings out. We started a media blitz for just, getting things on Facebook and circulating. I was doing my press release. And when it was posted to Facebook, one of the Parks and Rec commissioners saw it, was not informed that this project was going on, and apparently they are the ones that have jurisdiction over determining what can go in parks and not. So they were pretty upset about this. We had received permission from the parks director, and that's what I was operating under, who also indicated in writing that we did have permission and that we didn't need to go to the Parks Commission.
If they
But-
were all set, basically said, they're set.
Yeah, they don't need to do it, they're set. So it kind of got a little dicey at that point. Christine went with Annette to their meeting because we were kind of summoned to that meeting, and they handily denied the application or the proposal to plant, but did permit the event to continue. In reviewing what they did, the event wasn't really reviewing it.
The meeting wasn't legit,
The meeting wasn't legitimate. It wasn't noticed legitimately. They just kind of scheduled it and didn't tell anyone except for us.
which I filled out in the city council meeting.
So the city council meeting was the following Monday, and Annette and Christine went to that meeting and brought up this point and petitioned the council to do something about it, because it is a little in the charter that sets up the Park and Rec Commission. It's a little unclear as to what their powers really are. It's a little
It's vague.
squishy. Yeah.
They're the custodians of the park. I mean, that's like what it says.
So in response to that, it's my understanding that the commission, the city council wanted to have Park and Rec redo the meeting and have them there to mediate. This is what we were told.
The mayor was tasked with mediating and brokering a deal, which didn't really happen. But what did happen was they reinstated the same thing that they said before, you can have the event, you cannot plant. And, they said that we could plant at Jigs Donahue Park. Without any plan. This is the thing I
That's
love.
behind
Actually,
Mark,
I think it's such a
Yes.
huge win. There was no plan. There was like no approval as to where or how,
How big?
so, or how big. So I'm like, wow. What an opportunity. Because to me, I'm thinking, all right, so maybe the conservation district planting can happen at Jigs Donahue, or maybe that can happen elsewhere, and now we get two downtown within a very short time frame. Like I see this as a huge win if we could find a different suitable location for the Conservation Commission planting.
Well, there's already a site down there, agricultural site.
Right.
Correct, they have
What was it?
I think Lark is doing, I think it's.
Community garden.
I think Lark
Yeah,
is
they have
doing.
a community garden.
There you go.
And there had been the history on that is that there had been, I heard this from the Public Works Director, that site's been in and out of being maintained properly. And those are hard because there's a high standard of maintenance for park users, right? Of like, they want to see a garden that is like, looks great
Yeah,
all the time,
Yep.
freshly mulched. And there was definitely some fallow portions of it. And so they were having trouble with them. And I think that's what part of the antagonism was for this, was that it's going to be another thing that their maintainers are going to have to maintain,
Mhm.
which is not an unreasonable
right, it
perspective.
isn't.
But anyway, they kind of have already given up on that part. So my only recommendation would be, we can talk about the site. I'm interested to hear Northwest Conservation District's thought on that site if they've been out there. I've been out there recently, that we just coordinate with Lark, and I'll continue to coordinate with the Park and Rec Director just to make sure that we're being transparent and we don't throw something in that angers them, even though they gave us blanket approval, you know?
Right.
But
I sit on the board, Lark, if you'd like me to bring it up.
that'd be wonderful. That'd be wonderful. And we can hopefully like maybe schedule time to go out there and walk, because we don't want to conflict with whatever they're doing there. And there is a limited amount of sunlight there.
There definitely is limited amount, and they're not really as active.
I'm just wondering if, I mean, when I was looking at it, it's just some branches that are hanging over, and I was just wondering if there's a place we could open some of that up. But the other thing is, after the second Park and Rec Commission meeting, we were up in the land use office, and Nate joked that, because I said I could overwinter on my Prospect Street property, and Nate joked, oh, you could give us a conservation easement, which I actually was like, wait, could I? And, because the location is really good. And, so we talked about it a little more. I'm still interested in doing that, not necessarily a conservation easement, but you had talked about public access. Do you think that that's a viable thing?
Yeah, we can definitely like look
So
into that
maybe
a
we
little
do a
bit more.
sidewalk there.
It's near it's near Vogel Wetmore, the school there, kind of
It's
walking
right across from
distance.
Clark Street.
Yeah.
So Clark Street is the little U-shaped street behind the courthouse.
It's
Okay,
right next
sure.
to, it's right next to the new, bike path that goes on Prospect Street, and sidewalk. You can like,
And it has.
Walk right up from the
it has a
sidewalk.
Dedicated pathway into the area. The strip I was talking about seems kind of narrow to me, but I could also do a section of there's like a middle section too, that I think could make it bigger.
So I read all the remarks that they gave you from, people, homeless wandering in and picking fruits and,
And I
oh
say,
my God, it
yay.
went on. I mean, it went on and on. I was just curious. I mean, I didn't have time because I've been away, but I would like to, is it happening in other cities?
for sure.
Yeah.
What, you mean
and-
homeless people eating?
No, I don't, I'm familiar. I sit on the soup kitchen board, so I'm
Yeah.
familiar with what, I'm just curious, are other cities putting fruit trees, et cetera, in their parks?
Yes.
And
Yes.
So I believe this thing started from the research that I have done, and anybody correct me if I'm wrong. Years ago, there was a project, they were kind of this, they were part of the 99, like the Occupy Wall Street, but the California version of that. And this group of people, very, very progressive, and they were really critical of the way that the commons were removed. Like there used to be commons, there used to be fruit trees in municipalities that were open to everyone, and they were systematically removed. And a lot of the analysis of that is that was to disenfranchise different minority populations and the poor, that we didn't have to look at them. But it hurt everybody. It hurt the entire population. And that there's a systemic, systemic pattern of this with lots of things, public pools. There's lots of public amenities that once they are diversified, we get rid of them, basically. So they were super critical of that. And they started a program called Fallen Fruit, where people would register there. And it was a big movement in California, and it has, I believe, gone international. So that's how I became aware of this. So this was people registering their fruit trees that were close to the street and saying, I give public access to, you can put it on my database, and I welcome people to come and pick my fruit. I have too much fruit. And they also started registering random fruit trees on public land. And now there's a big app, and you can put your fruit trees on it, and you can find other fruit trees. So it's for, like community agriculture people and foragers and stuff like that, where they can go and safely harvest free produce. Okay. So then they ended up getting a food forest in, like the first public food forest, and I don't know what town, you could Google it, in California. And other more kind of progressive, usually affluent cities have followed suit. So there are some in Oregon, Seattle.
Yeah.
Austin.
Austin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, when I look at this, it's like, this is such a cheap amenity. It is not an expensive amenity. And Torrington could use amenities that are
For sure.
that are considered like a signifier of affluence. That costs nothing. And if I could kind of create a situation that beautifies and causes public interest and community, I think that that's a win for Torrington. I think Torrington desperately needs that kind of amenity.
I agree.
So, with all of that, kind of where we stood, we had the event. Thank you, Annette. I thought it went really well. We had about 30 people is what I counted over the course of the 2 hours there. Some of them were us and, our friends, and some of them were neighbors.
Their families.
Right. Some of them were dog walkers that were a little interested. Not too many of those, but mostly a group of people across the street who had kids that all knew each other, that were excited about it and like a little disappointed that it wasn't happening. Quite a bit disappointed, I felt. And then there was one gentleman that was displeased with our process and felt like he wasn't involved enough, which is fair, and he was polite about it.
Was he one of the ones who came to the meeting, or was he somebody
No,
else?
he was someone else. He lived right
Okay.
across the street there, but
Okay.
he started out a little less polite, but I think he he
calmed
warmed
down?
to the situation.
Okay.
He realized that our intentions were not to do something to hurt him, and
Right.
that it wasn't going there anyway, so
Yeah.
it didn't really matter
Right.
much to
Right.
push at it. But we were able to do some surveys. I got 10 responses back on the urban forestry, which is wonderful. And that'll be useful for us reapplying for the equity grant. So I'm very pleased. I would have loved to see the food forest go in there,
Yep.
but we did a whole process where we did the mailing. We had a translator there. We put them in all kinds of, I know Barbara put them in all kinds of locations, like the Hispanic grocery stores.
Yep.
And, we brought people in and we tried and we got some responses back. So hopefully they were saying in our application, it was well scoped, but the only thing we were missing was an equity component. Instead of, I was saying, well, we'll just dedicate this huge chunk of money to doing equity and outreach with a professional. They were like, well, we want to see commitment to it up front. So
Okay. What does that mean? Can you explain that to me?
what commitment up front? I don't know.
for
They
equity.
didn't really,
Okay.
they didn't really
It's like, okay,
expound
what
on
is
it. Well, when I described the food forest project and what we wanted to do, and they seemed like, oh, that seems like a great first, like, it's like a first step of outreach.
Or that's outreach, not equity upfront?
No, we still have to budget in for an equitable process as far as like a more kind of representative sample of underserved groups, right? Not just the people in Bannon Street,
Yeah.
but in all the areas on whether or not they want trees and what kind of trees and,
Okay.
you know, trying to get their input.
Interesting. So we could have little events at multiple locations in
I-
Torrington possibly next year?
I
Did
had,
we do something?
well, I don't know when we're gonna get the grant or how long it'll take to get into contract with someone. It was a no match, so I think it'll be pretty easy.
Okay.
As far as like, I mean, procurement, maybe they want more. They designed it for underserved communities with low staff capacity.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful that
So
it won't
this
be
is
too onerous.
this is the urban forestry.
That's the
grant.
urban
Okay.
forestry. So that what we had applied for last year was an urban forest inventory, management plan, and canopy assessment.
Mhm.
And even if we just got the inventory and the management plan with the equity component, that'd be great.
Could we show up at, could one or two of us as volunteers show up at different locations throughout I would do it in the spring and the fall. I don't know when, but like show up either at a grocery store in a particular neighborhood or park in a particular neighborhood and have more surveys filled out.
Well, leading up to it to kind of like
to get through
bolster.
that.
It's a good point. I'm gonna contact the deep person, urban
Uh-huh.
forestry person, and I'm gonna run it by her.
Okay.
And it's early enough, they haven't released an RFP yet, so usually at that point, like if they haven't released money, they can be more candid and kind of talking about what
Okay.
would be acceptable,
Okay.
and if it will help us significantly and it's competitive, she'll probably say, yeah, go for it and do
Okay.
it. But I think we'd still have time. They didn't release it last year until like January.
Okay.
So
So hypothetically, let's just say, have we ever put trees on streets?
what was that?
Well, trees on streets. I know Hartford right now is working, of putting trees on streets because of summer to keep the cooling down of the pavement, and that cools the whole city down. So
Right.
I was curious, so if you're putting trees on streets, could you put a fruit tree on a street? Or would it have to be a oak, or would it have to be, I mean?
So
a
this
certain
would be
shading?
this would be a larger process. So in Connecticut, we have tree wardens, which are like assigned municipal representatives that are tasked with managing the municipality's trees, right? On public lands. So we have all the right of way, all the area that's, 10, 15 plus feet from the edge of the road, some of which has trees on it. That's all the property of the city, and the city has to decide how those are managed. And there's a permitting process. Our tree warden is our public works director, Ray Drew, and that's pretty normal. I'm a deputy tree warden, but we have other ones as well. And so the idea here is it's being done because it has to be, but there's no plan, there's no inventory, so we don't know what's out there. We don't have a plan for managing it. So this grant would allow us to kind of be able to do some planning prior to making a decision, like, do we want fruit trees? Can we manage fruit trees in the right of way?
And
Do people want them?
That
You
was
know?
part of what the
Right,
survey
right.
is. What kind of trees would you like to see and where?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that would all come out hopefully at the end, and it can be more nuanced, like this neighborhood seems to really want this kind of stuff. This neighborhood, Bannon Street wants a more clean aesthetic. Washington Ave wants more fruit trees
Right,
on the
right.
road. And so that's the idea behind this, so that when, then Public Works Department can go and get a grant for, let's say they want to add 50% more to their urban canopy. Well, we have this plan, it's a recommendation, it says this area needs it, blah, blah, blah. Then they can go in and access more funding that way because we have the plan. That's the idea of getting the plan in place and then, moving forward from there. But it's all, yeah, it's exciting and interesting, but that's just my piece there. But other than that, I thought that the whole thing went well. I will share the results of the urban forestry of the survey. I mean, it was a pretty basic survey, and it was very, I don't know how much information it provided, but it was some input, and I think that the people who were filling it out seemed to not hate it. So, but is there anything else, I guess, Annette and Cynthia, you wanted to add to that description of the event?
No, I think your summary is fine. I think that Cynthia wasn't there. But when I reported back to her on the next Monday or whenever we spoke next, I think I said, yeah, the turnout definitely could have been more. Not to say it was bad, but I think the quality of engagement was really good. Those people that were there were, invested in, the presentation Kelsey gave, the literature we had available, the surveys you had. I think most people who came filled things out, and came and really talked to us. I mean, so I think it was a success. One thing I don't know if was mentioned, but Christine had brought the raspberry canes, and I think we counted, half of, was it 20, 25 bags were brought, and at least half were given out.
Yeah,
So that was, something for those who were excited to be planting something. At least they could take something home to plant. But I think, yeah, it was a success given what it turned into.
yeah, so Ben across the street who gave us the intel on the soccer players in the park emailed me to say that he took 3 bags and he planted 1 row right in his front yard at the sidewalk. So he made his own food forest. It's for public.
Oh,
It's for
that's
public consumption.
That's a nice outcome,
Yeah.
That's cool.
yeah. In terms of, I don't know if we are segueing to discussing more the next steps.
Yes, let's.
As was said already, Jigs Donahue has been pre-approved. And I was sort of the mindset that I think there are a variety of options we could do moving forward. I don't think one is necessarily more right or wrong. Christine, I heard you say, whether we end up doing the planting at Jigs Donahue through this grant or, something else. I don't have a strong opinion. The considerations with Jigs Donahue that are somewhat unfortunate. It's not a huge deal. Technically, we were focusing on within Bannon Street. It was within the environmental justice. What's the term? It's the community. It's the smaller, more intense version. I could look up the map. So Torrington as a whole is an environmentally distressed municipality according to the state. And then within that, there's environmental justice communities. So it was like the next scale up in terms of, state level identified areas of needs. And technically Jigs Donahue is like not in that, not to say it's not
kind of
still an
bizarre,
option
yeah.
for us. It's because it's a census block and they're following those lines.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
So it's really arbitrary, but just in terms of like being able to say, oh, it's in one or not. That's not that's not a deal breaker. That's just a something to point out. The other, we should have gone out there today, Cynthia. I didn't think about it. But I know you guys are talking about tree, canopy cover, which is a more practical concern that I would have, putting trees. That might be a good area to put pawpaws though, because they
Right,
do
it has
like shade.
tree canopy that kind of comes over like,
Right.
from outside of the fence that just shades a decent portion of the lot. But the trees aren't actually on the lot. They're like right outside.
Gotcha.
This is the park.
Okay.
You can see like, this is that area of community garden
Yeah.
and that's the shadow, right? I don't know what time of day this was taken, right? But, there's definitely like this portion shaded. You'd want to get as close to the middle.
Right.
This is
Right.
south.
And
This
then
is-
I do have a, not concern, but I would just, similarly to how we didn't know necessarily that, oh, they play soccer at Bannon Street weekly. Like, is that grassed area behind the gardens used by people for recreationally already? I just would
Well-
want to be, in the same way reason we didn't want to put the trees in the middle of Bannon Street Park. I just want to make sure we're not overlooking something here in that regard.
Well, and maybe as another step, learning from the past experience, doing something more preemptive, like have a sign being, I don't know. I mean, the ideal thing is to have a person there to try to find people, right?
Yeah.
Or conscript a community member to kind of see who's using the site or whatever. I mean, mostly I see kids hanging out there, people walking dogs. Whenever I've been there, I see people walking dogs and, teenagers mulling around the playground. That's pretty much, I mean, I don't know what the weekend groups are. I don't know what the after work groups are, right? But it definitely is a well-used park. But maybe some more preemptive sort of
Surveying,
outreach
yeah.
might benefit us here just to, I mean, what I had heard from Public Works was, well, they don't use any of this area back here, go for it. But I don't get the impression that they really have any idea of like the informal sort of what's going on. They kind of just consider, well, there's not a lot of room here anymore.
Nobody's gonna have a soccer game when they're mowing, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
People are gonna vacate the area when mowing is happening.
Right. And it is a smaller area though. It's not,
Big enough.
there's really not much room for much of anything, but I think it wouldn't hurt to kind of do some engagement.
Yeah, it's not the same size as the basketball court. The hell of a lot
Yeah.
smaller pitch.
I hate to say this, but and maybe I'm wrong about this, but this entire neighborhood is multi-families. I don't know that there's a single family in this area. And Bannon Street is more of a mixed kind of single family, two family sort
If we
of
were actually two
neighborhood.
families then. Single families, I think.
Right. So that adds a little bit more of a, a sense of NIMBYism. I feel it's just, people who are renting in multifamilies are less likely to,
Right.
be super concerned about the property value at least.
Have some fruit trees.
I
But
guess I
anyway.
will, yeah, I think that being said, the benefit to Jigs Donahue is the East Branch of the Naugatuck River running through there. Right? If I'm looking correctly, like in the middle of the trees
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So it is close to obviously a waterway, which is technically what this grant does come back to is the urban waters.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that is a plus. Equity in urban watersheds, I should,
It's definitely built on a floodplain. So it would be floodplain reforestation. The other cool thing about this project, if I have to sell it a little bit more, is that this is the brand new Ed Advance Head Start building.
Yes.
And they gave us, so the Jigs Donahue Park property actually,
They gave you, or I thought we already had property behind.
no, yeah, we already had it, but
Okay.
I just want to bring up the layer with the parcels, yeah. So this is their property here. And then this is Jigs Donahue, and this is Jigs Donahue. Just ignore this. This is probably all owned by the city. And
the
there's
city
no way, or it's complicated.
Okay.
Just ignore this.
Okay.
But this is completely landlocked. It's impossible to access. And the idea eventually was to get a bridge or something to cross over here, to try to access this. But the Head Start here, they have a parking lot that they've established. They've given permission and an easement to use their property as a trailhead to do a little trail down here because they want to bring kids down to the river and kind of make it more of a amenity for them, but also provide public access there. Their hours don't really conflict. So, I mean, down the road, I could see it as if we had this, it'd be great to
And then
coordinate
have
with
a
Head Start
bridge
and get them to
have a
come
fruit-
and do,
Come get fruit, yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
and at the very least, like have a harvest party with the kids or something like that, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity
Well,
with the school.
particularly if, of course, they're on the wrong side.
How
So,
much
so
acreage
point to
is that?
south again, it's not exactly that direction, right? It's more,
It's that, so this is the
oh,
Compass
it's
Rose.
directly that, okay,
Yeah,
that way.
it's not a bad aspect, it's, I
No.
mean, especially if you get it as in the middle as possible,
Yeah.
maybe do a row this way.
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I
But
think our
those-
design from Bannon was in a straight line anyway, so that wouldn't be hard to just pop over. But I think
I-
were there, I don't know if we wanted to talk, Cynthia, about any of the way back original thoughts for this project that you were more a part of. Or if we're feeling like we do just want to go forward with Jigs Donahue, or if there are other ideas anybody has floating in their heads.
Well, Annette, I think you did a good job of covering what the emphasis of the grant is supposed to be. And it does actually sound like this could be a better location for it, given that it's closer to the waterway and the type of neighborhood with the multifamily houses that Nate, that you described. So I think I'm comfortable with moving ahead with looking at this. I think our next step would be to go out there and, you know, look at it on the ground. I'd obviously like to look at the soil like we did over at Bannon. I'm not expecting it to be something that wouldn't work, but you know, given my bent as a soil scientist, I would want to look at the soil. I'm starting to feel that this could be a very good option. So if the commission is on board with it, then we can move ahead and explore the site a little bit more and see if the actual design needs to be adjusted a little bit for the conditions here. We won't know that until after we've been out there. I'm not expecting that it will have to be adjusted much. One of the things that Annette said about using pawpaws is definitely a great idea because they will take some shade. I actually have them myself, and my pawpaw trees get a fair bit of shade, and they produced a lot of fruit this year. So that's something that we can consider as well.
What about, like we did at Bowman Gardens, could we plant some like hazelnuts along the back fence line? So it kind of blends in with the,
Yeah, I mean, and
Existing
having
trees.
an edible riparian buffer, I'm sure is very attractive to them. I don't know what how the lighting works on that, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what the grant looks like, but that would be a very cool idea. I mean, this area is truly like the floodplain. It may be a FEMA floodplain here. So hopefully it's alluvial soils and it hasn't been too manipulated. It is, you know, upstream of it is controlled by the Army Corps of Engineers. So I doubt it floods at any kind of regularity anymore. But any kind of restoration in an area like this, I would think would be contributing toward, like, you know, the stream value.
so do we need to kind of figure out a usage, like a survey, like I just wonder if we should have a game plan for that in the time between now and spring. It's probably not going to get a lot of use in the winter, but we could maybe look at the fall, you know, the rest of it. And I'm just trying to think of how we could do that. Would we want to take on a couple of time slots to check it?
Well, I think you gotta go out and look at it first to make sure it's not.
Right.
You know, they
But I'm
haven't
just
buried
saying,
asbestos
you
or
know.
on it or something. Fitzgerald didn't put the asbestos all through it, you know. So
How would we
before-
find that? I mean, I know we were
you
doing
go out there
soil,
and
but
look,
that's not
it's
that
something-
deep.
No, then you go out there and take.
You can see if it's at least like industrial soil or if
Yeah,
there's
you can
something
see,
that's like
you know,
bad fill.
bad fill, you know, the garbage fill.
Yeah.
they-
I mean, industrial soil tends to have a lot of broken bricks and concrete and different stuff buried in it.
And Cynthia around here, they had asbestos.
Yeah, that's a definite inner city issue all around the state. Yeah.
Does asbestos get pulled up and into the fruit though? It's not like oil or
Yep. but
chemicals, does it?
you really wanna
No,
dig
anytime
that?
asbestos is toxic is when it's in the air. I mean,
Do you really wanna be digging? for it?
no, you don't want to be digging it. No.
No.
I'm
I
not saying
did.
that, you know.
They did put a garden, so I wonder what the due diligence
I don't
was
know.
for the garden.
I think it
That's a very good point. I'm actually more concerned about lead in the
Yeah.
soil.
is-
Um,
we need to go
I
out
mean,
and look.
asbestos, you wouldn't want to dig it up and have it go airborne. I think somebody mentioned that, but lead in the soil is not really something that you can see, but it's definitely something we would want to know about. Community garden, like raised beds over soil that has lead, is usually recommended by NRCS, as long as the raised bed soil depth is sufficient. But for trees, I think we would have to look into that, because obviously tree roots, go much deeper than vegetables do. So, and
If I could see if there's raised bed, that looks like a not raised bed to me, but I mean, they might not know.
I think I felt like they might have been raised beds when I went and looked. Is it possible that they
Maybe, I don't know.
added?
This
No,
was
that
very-
looks,
So that's
that doesn't
22.
look like a raised bed.
No,
It
I
looks-
know it doesn't, but
Not really.
I thought I saw.
That's in April, but,
Oh,
I-
So I can't say.
no,
but,
maybe not.
well, the question I have for the Northwest Conservation folks are like, when does this grant expire? Like, when, is this like a spring or bust sort of proposition, or would we have
Yeah.
it in the fall?
Yeah,
no,
Alright.
as far as here, let me pull up. I think it's the end of July. It may be the end of August, but regardless, we're not planting in July or August. We'd hopefully be planting in the
Do
spring.
we want to set up a site walk? And I mean, that's actually not that far from my property either, so we could kill two birds with one stone.
I
Yeah,
mean,
do you want me to do that? I can circulate something and we can try to work it out and see who can come, for the next coming weeks, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
next few weeks.
yeah, I mean, I do think, Cynthia's point to us coming out and looking at the soil is a first. I mean, I think people are more than welcome to
Yeah, maybe
we
we
can
could
try
just
and
figure
schedule
that out.
something, but I guess I would also say, if we can't align schedules, we could at least rule out, the simple problems that might be evident through.
Yeah, we'll give it a try, and then if it seems like you guys have to operate on your own, that's fine. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll try to come at the very least, and then,
Sounds good.
okay.
okay, and then we'll just take it from there.
All right. Any
So
more
we'll
discussion
stay
on
in
this?
touch with you
Thank
through
you.
Nate. And yeah, I think this is
Well, I think before we wrap up, it sounds like you're trying to wrap up. Sorry to cut you off, Cynthia. I think we were trying to find a couple plants. Was there any development on
oh
that?
yes. I did not hear back from Michael Caneb, who took some plants. He obviously, maybe away, or he's not looking at his email today, but I know he took some. I just can't remember what they were.
It probably would have been the herbaceous stuff.
So
That's
we're
what we were
missing
thinking. I just
the
didn't know
mint?
if anybody had heard
some kind
anything.
of mint
The mountain mint, and then there
and
was,
the rhubarb. Was there more?
another one, and not rhubarb. Wasn't echinacea, was it?
There was mountain mint and there was bee balm, I want to
Bee balm.
say.
Bee balm, yeah.
Monarda, yeah.
Whatever.
So yeah, that's fine. I just didn't know if any progress had. I know you had
Haven't
said
heard
we might
anything.
discuss that today, Nate. So wanted to.
Hey, can I ask a question while I have you here? You just, I think, forgot to answer. I don't know whether I'm planting them, if I'm healing them in, like, are they gonna be upright or down at an angle?
What would you guys recommend? So I had recommended for healing them in to just that she could pile a lot of mulch around the
Yeah.
pots themselves. and
Yeah,
not
you
have
can
to-
do that.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
That's fine.
so
I
I
would
can
keep
just
'em
pull the
upright.
mulch around them and leave them, okay.
yeah. But you
Yeah.
keep them pretty tight because you're just trying
Yes.
to keep the
From-
roots from
from-
freezing.
And it's not like they don't
Is
have
There's
this-
a
leaves
lot of
on
root
them.
activity at the top, at the crown. of the
Is this
plant.
going to be this is going to be a lot of work for you? And also, I'm going to add to it because given
Excellent.
the temperatures that we're having and it's very dry, we're in a drought.
Yeah.
These plants really need to be watered until we get into, freezing temperatures or very cold anyway.
Yes. Yeah,
So I
so,
don't know.
that's okay. That's okay with me. I can have them near the spigot.
Okay.
Um,
But that being said,
Do
they
I
also
want
don't really need to
mulch?
be
Do I
healed
want-
in like that till it's
Do I
that
want
close
mulch,
either.
right on, like on top as well? Like, do I want to cover the
Yeah,
whole
you
thing?
can,
Yeah,
well,
That's-
you wouldn't want to have
Or
the mulch
after it-
right
when
up
it gets to
against
full?
the bark of the plants. That's an issue.
Okay,
But it's kind of, it's kind of hard to describe over, in this
I can
platform.
take pictures as I go and get,
Well, you're just
team.
saying, I mean, she could pile the mulch over all the trees, but then she
and
can
then dig the.
kind of make a
weed
little
out.
crater around just to make
Yeah.
sure that, 'cause you just don't want the bark
I don't wanna
against.
suffocate them.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay,
If you need help with that, let me know. I'll try.
Yeah, I was gonna say, email us as well. We can be,
okay.
one of
Yeah.
us can be handy.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'll just figure out, the position that they're gonna be in and get them all close together, close to my hose. Then I'll start bringing the mulch around. But I don't think, it's not gonna be that big a deal,
All right.
really.
Well, thank
Okay.
you, Christine,
Sure.
for volunteering to do that.
You're welcome.
And
Are we all set with this discussion? Is there anything more?
I guess before we go into email scheduling chaos, is there, if we say a date for,
I would like
Maybe
that. I
after-
like when dates are up front.
Yep.
Let me go.
let me
Should
pull
I
my
bring it?
calendar up.
Yeah, go ahead, got it.
Cynthia, do you have a specific date that works best for you?
Well, at the moment, I have quite a few dates being saved for some site inspections around
Mhm.
different places that I'm trying to coordinate with other people. So I'm not really in a position tonight to give anything specific.
Okay.
I'm sorry
Well, how
about
about you send me, you can send it to me or the group if you have that text or that thread and I can try to like, just make sure everyone gets it and I'll help facilitate that. If you want to just start it with a couple dates or a couple times.
that would work better for me.
And
Thank you,
if we
Nate.
can't do it, then we'll let you just go do it on your own.
Yeah,
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I
Yeah,
think.
thank you very much.
thank you.
All right.
And
Good
I
night.
guess if I can, I just want to say I support the sheep grazing, the agrivoltaics.
Oh, yes,
That was
absolutely.
Oh,
Cool.
I was
a
wondering
farmer
what you guys thought about
who has worked with us. He's gotten cover crop from our cover crop program. So it's funny to hear him talking. But yes, I just want to say that's definitely a great thing. Fully support that.
He's incredibly active. He has like a whole
Yes.
garden for like for providing food to
Yep.
to the school district. Like on top of this, I'm like, how do you have time to do all of this? I don't know.
Yeah, he does.
Well,
friendly
he's
hands
smart
and he
because
does-
he's
Yeah,
getting
friendly
paid.
hands.
He's figuring out ways to get paid
Yeah.
for it. That's how he has time.
So all right. Well, again, thank you. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Cynthia. Okay, so our next old business is the HVA crossing assessment.
You guys want to? That had to get canceled because we just didn't have enough people, and I was really busy.
So we'll just
You want to like defer this? I mean,
defer. I mean, I don't know if we want to try and schedule another, but I don't have my scheduling stuff with me, so we can.
and
we
my
can try
bandwidth is
again.
getting more and more thinly stretched, and
You want to just stop for now for the season?
I'm okay with stopping.
I'm okay with stopping for now too.
We could restart all this in the spring.
Okay,
Probably easier to say that.
and would
Yeah.
we want to do that for the open space inventory as well?
Yeah, we can revisit that in the winter because I'm wondering if it might be easier to
For-
access
for
that site.
Greenbrier.
Yeah, for Greenbrier. So we can do, I had that in my notes from the last minutes that we would revisit that in the winter. So
Okay.
maybe that'll be like a,
So in November.
yeah, we can start
November
thinking, we
meeting.
can start thinking about that. And if we get snowed out, then we can
Yeah.
get snowed out.
Or even December. Yeah, okay. So that was staff update number 1A.
Number two, Red Mountain, I don't have much updates on that. I'm just waiting for, I brought comments that you had about that route. I don't think he's inclined to really consider that because of just the cost of the project at this point, even how it is, but I did bring it up to him and
8%'s wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm a big bike advocate, but 8% is wrong.
Yeah.
I
Well-
mean, it's just bad. I mean,
I was glad you caught that.
do you know how fast you can go down?
Well,
on
what's
8%?
Winthrop Street?
That's about 8%.
Yeah, I do know how fast, because that was my whole teenage years was no
Yeah, 30
hands.
Well,
Winthrop
yeah, but you
Street.
can have a cyclometer. I can.
No,
go-
I have.
Oh, you
I
have
did.
one?
Oh, yeah.
That's easily
yeah.
over 30 miles an hour.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
gone
It
down
was
there
like
as
the
well.
coolest thing ever. My cousins used to go through stop signs, get hit by cars.
That's what I-
and break their arms. That was like a very common occurrence.
Yeah. Well, there'll be splatter all over.
But yeah,
Charlie
no, I
Place.
mean, as an adult, I mean, as a kid, that was like hella fun, but as an adult, I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, there would be a long stretch of a few hundred feet between a flat between that pitch and the intersection
It's
there.
not- that's not
Like
that
300
far.
feet. It's pretty far. Maybe not 300 feet, but at least 200 feet.
How long is the downhill? Or 8%, how long is that?
That's
don't know.
100 feet,
Less than
100 feet. About 100.
I'm just thinking if somebody has a stroller, like, I mean,
Push it
bike,
up,
yeah,
push it
yeah.
up. You're not gonna be able to.
Yeah.
push it
Well, there's going to
up
be
there.
an actual public input process. This is like, I mean,
Oh,
again, it
okay.
makes it hard. It makes it hard, right? Once the route is established for them to go back and change the route,
No,
but there
you
will
can-
be a
you can
public.
You can switch back at.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
there's
obviously
things they
stuff
can
you
do.
can do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, no, but I
you
mean,
know,
like,
no
I-
bike paths, no
right.
that.
I do think that that's kind of important to call out.
Yeah.
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 I mean, also, like, you know, kids will love that, and then it's a danger to people who are walking
Walking up.
down the road, yeah.
and the prior plan did have that switchback.
Speaking of incline, when you're going down East Main, do you know the sidewalks?
Mhm.
Why every so often does the sidewalk just get flat for one brick or one concrete?
It
area and
does?
then go like that?
I assume that I know exactly what you're talking about because I've noticed that. I think it's a safety feature. I think it's because the pitch is like this, it like slows someone down before they hit the intersection if they're on an out of
That's what I was
control.
wondering, but it's just like, it's like one
Little snap
4-foot section.
But if you notice, they're like right before the intersection. So I'm wondering, it's either that or maybe the pitch was just that they needed to like
Where is
terrace
that? Is
it.
that like before Charles Street, like where?
It's in
where
a
is-
couple places. I think
Okay.
it's by the road crossings.
Okay,
You
now
know,
I gotta go look.
you'll see it when you drive up. It goes like,
So you have
and then
a,
it's
it
flat,
actually
and then-
comes, oh,
it's like
really?
it's like a hiking trail. Like you're
Oh.
like walking up the
Okay.
side. I mean, it's a steep sidewalk.
Yeah, it sure is.
But yeah, I know I've seen the same thing. I had this, I didn't actually ask anyone though, so disregard. That's just my theory.
Beamer lamp presentation up
I'd like to
there.
defer that to
What
another
is that?
meeting.
Is this new? Did you talk about it before?
No,
Is my
I didn't.
memory that bad?
I
Okay.
didn't. I didn't. Yeah, we can. I mean, if you want, I can.
Good. If you want to defer it, we'll defer it.
Yeah, just because we
This
had
is
a
a
lot
long
on this
meeting.
agenda. I
Yeah.
know. I know.
Okay.
I'll just. But I'll add. We'll have a discussion on it.
Okay.
I did add one other thing. I'll just keep it under the staff update
Mhm.
umbrella instead of adding a new item. But another interesting thing with the tree conversation was that talking to the tree warden in the regulation for the trees, anytime a tree is removed in the city right away, the regulation requires 2 trees be planted in its place. And I've already had this experience. The plan will be helpful for this, showing where there's gaps where they can plant, but where Ray will be like, I don't know where to plant this tree. Like, have any ideas? And I'm like, not really. I don't really know. I mean, that's like a public works question.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to kind of work with them to say maybe they can do it as a fee in lieu sort of situation for some people.
Back up, can we just define, you're talking the right of way beside the edge of the street on people's private property,
No.
or on public property.
Right. So the city owns 10+ feet on either side of the
On the
road,
road.
5+
But
feet.
that's also for residential, I mean, that's everywhere,
They're
right?
permitted to mow the lawn there, but it's not their property.
Okay, it's not a
So,
right of way.
It's a public right of way.
There's a right of way and then there's pavement width. The pavement width may be like, generally it's 28 feet, but the right of way, publicly owned property, is generally about 50 feet.
It's 50 feet and it's only
But it
on,
depends, like a lot of the older ones, probably it's 40 feet. or
It's
30
it's extremely variable.
It's
It's
variable.
it's impossible to know. So you have to kind
But
of.
Yeah, so show
Torrance
me an
West, it's
example.
100 feet.
So this is
okay,
the
so it is
Torrance-
on,
Torrance
it is
Street,
on
it's
people's
100
front
feet.
yards, like private property.
What, yeah, what you.
Okay,
think
okay,
is
that's
your
what I'm
right.
trying to figure out, okay.
But it's Torrance Street.
So if you have a house on Torrance Street,
This-
first 100 feet,
No, not the the whole width, right of way width is 100 feet from, I mean, the pavement's
You got
probably,
center of the road.
you got center of the road, it's probably
And then-
50 feet to each side.
Yeah, but then.
So the road
an
is
additional
wider than
50
the
feet.
actual pavement and the sidewalk.
The
is
right
basically
of
what it
way.
is.
is
Right.
much
An
wider.
additional 50 feet onto people's
No,
property.
not an additional, the whole pavement.
From the center
This
line.
is the road.
Center line,
Center line.
yeah.
50 feet out.
So, you know, roads are variable widths too,
You
so
got
the road
100
itself
feet.
could be a two lane.
Yeah, 50 feet, like here's,
Like on either side, right? So the
So
center line,
here's-
50 feet, 50 feet.
here's the road, here's the pavement.
Yeah.
Here is the right of way. So the pavement may only be fairly wide, so it's 30 feet pavement from there to there. So then this is probably
And it's 10,
10,
I'd say.
no, well,
No,
it could
'cause
be
it could
10
be-
and 10. So you got 70 feet, so this could be 35 feet. And this could be 35.
Which could include a sidewalk. It could just be grass,
30 feet
somebody's,
is all, that's all.
Yeah,
yeah.
well, according to. a
If
former-
you go to these maps, and this is probably the best way to look at it, because there's
Yeah,
no
look.
like, see these strategically
lines?
placed rocks?
Yeah.
So this is the,
That's where the other property starts.
this is the
Yeah.
state, this is the state right away.
That's
So
the state
any of the
right of way.
state roads have their own right of way, and the city have
There
their
is no
own.
right of way.
So there's all kinds of permitting associated with that. Right, so this one, how wide is this one?
But look at that one goes right into the building. Wait, is that a building?
Well, so some of these are just like poorly drawn lines, but some of them, yeah, there may be
Yeah.
historical encroachment. Oh, no, that's not a building.
Yeah,
That's a
Oh, it-
parking, it's a
That's a
parking.
parking lot. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But this,
It's like a building. I was
as an
like, that
example,
makes
this property did actually, like, they have to, this is just getting into zoning a little bit, but they had to put their sign over here. Like, they can't do, this was a prior encroachment, and DOT gave them right to maintain that encroachment.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
But that is a building
But-
over there on the right there that they're encroaching on.
Which one?
Off the parking lot. That's the building right to the right of that parking, in the parking lot. No?
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Where? I don't see,
On-
this is parking, this
Yeah,
is
go,
parking,
yeah, go to the other side of the parking there with it. No.
this way,
No, the other.
this one?
No.
No.
Right, it is
Behind it?
I'm confused.
Right
Yeah,
there,
right there.
right there.
You just went by it.
This isn't,
Yeah.
this isn't
And then
approved.
move back. That
Oh.
building right there.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
that's a
Oh,
shadow.
That's a shadow.
This
Yeah.
is
It's
the,
pretty
Oh, it's- yeah,
close.
Okay. it looked like a
Oh, yeah, it's
building.
real
I'm
close.
sorry.
yeah. But most of the time, like you're saying, most of the time, there's not a sidewalk on this road. It goes to the edge of the sidewalk in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And the
like
city
one-
owns that. But,
Okay.
so you can imagine that the city owns a lot of property in this area.
Yeah, I feel like they own a
Right.
little bit of.
They can mow there, they can
Okay,
put a
so
mailbox in with a
Can
permit,
you show-
but
Nobody knows
Can
it.
you show prospects? Can you show my property? Oh, I'm just interested. Sorry, I'm interested. So
so Prospect Street, because,
I think the trees that I had to take down were not in the right of way.
no, so
Whole
Prospect Street has a sidewalk. And I believe.
And the right of way just ends at the sidewalk?
Maybe.
I'm getting lost here. This is Prospect Street. Where's the school? There's the school.
And then the court.
Your house is this one?
Uh,
This one? One of these?
That one. I think it's that one. The one you're right on right now.
This one?
I think it's that one.
So see, this is the sidewalk and this is the bike lane.
Okay.
So they have taken it up with the sidewalk,
Definitely
but a lot of
not,
places
but
don't.
Close enough.
But
Okay,
right,
so
it's
it's
the same
about at the
area.
sidewalk.
Yeah.
So most of the time in the urban areas, it's occupied by sidewalk. In the rural areas, it can be very, very wide. So most of those are state roads. So, a lot of that we don't maintain, but anytime a tree has to be removed within that area, they have to get a permit from the tree warden. And so we just had this situation actually come up on East Main Street that I forwarded to the guy.
Yeah.
To the tree warden, and he's like, okay, you have to fill out this permit, and every time you remove a tree, we'll let you remove the tree, but you have to plant two in its place. But I don't know that they have a formal fee and lieu system where like they could just pay the cost of the tree and put it in an account, because I think I want to get it to the Conservation Commission has a budget for doing restoration, so we could potentially use it for food forest, use it
Yeah.
for, because
Oh,
they
that's a
just
great
need
idea.
the trees. Like they
Yeah.
don't care where they just want to make sure there's trees on public land, because
Right.
that's what the ordinance says.
Okay.
So, but anyway, I'm
Oh, that's a
advocating
good
for that
idea.
behind the scenes.
Okay.
Just,
Okay.
that's the only thing I just wanted to
Okay.
keep you on.
Okay.
All right. So do we have a motion for adjournment
So moved.
All right.
Here you go.
and a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Oh, You're an aye? Okay, so motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Anybody able, I can't drive today.